Well, we are nearing the end of 2025, and that means Time magazine is out with its Person of the Year. But this year's recipient is not a single person. Instead, Time has given the coveted designation to the architects of artificial intelligence. Among those on the cover, Meta founder Mark Zuckerberg, OpenAI's Sam Altman, and Elon Musk, who heads xAI. The publication citing the ways in which AI has changed the world in exciting and sometimes frightening ways. All right, Joel Blit is a professor in the Department of Economics at the University of Waterloo, also the co-founder and director of the Canadian AI Adoption Initiative. Professor Blit, welcome to the program. Thank you.
Great to be here, Antony.
One thing that I want to ask you about is perhaps overlooked on the cover is the godfather of AI, Geoffrey Hinton, a Canadian and British physicist. Nonetheless, he did write an article for this issue of the magazine. He said this, I want to know your thoughts. He says, artificial intelligence is the most impactful technological development of our time, more impactful than computers or the internet, and perhaps comparable to the Industrial Revolution. Do you agree with that statement? And if so, could you elaborate?
I mean, I agree with it, but of course, without computers, there would be no AI, right? So it's hard to compare these technologies against each other. What is very clear is that we've had some incredibly disruptive technologies over the last couple hundred years. One of them being the steam engine, another one being electricity. I'd say computers is up there as well. And now we have AI. And, I think it's hard to compare all of those, but clearly those four are in that same category where they're really going to change our society and our economy.
But it's already changed it so much, and we just feel that this is just the tip of the iceberg, as cliche as that might sound. But I mean, in terms of how it's revolutionized so many sectors in business and education, of course, can you talk about some of the positive ways it has impacted that?
Yeah, and I might add that we're only at the beginning, right? I mean, we're only at the very beginning of the AI revolution. And so, the biggest impacts are on productivity. So people are going to be able to use these technologies to do whatever it is that they're doing a lot more efficiently. So in an hour of your time, you're going to be able to do a lot more of the things that you're currently doing. For some things, we might even be able to automate them entirely so that we don't need people doing them. And of course, that's going to bring positives in terms of productivity. It's also going to bring negatives. But for Canada, I think the opportunity is far greater than for many other countries, just because we have been doing so badly economically over the last several decades, and even over the last 3 years, our economy has actually been shrinking as a fraction of the population. And so this is really an opportunity for us to change the economic trajectory. And the last thing I'd say about AI is it's also a technology that can accelerate innovation and research itself. And that really is what drives economic growth in the long run. And so we have a technology that could really, really accelerate economic growth and therefore the standard of living of Canadians.
You bring up a good point, because you wonder, with productivity, a lot of people think that there are job losses. On the other hand, could this be mitigated by the growth in that sector? And therefore, they even may cancel each other out, if not offset the loss of jobs with AI.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky, and it's going to depend on the sector. For sure, some sectors we're going to see a loss of jobs. For example, journalists, unfortunately, but journalists are one of those areas where a journalist with access to these tools is probably going to be able to do twice as much work in an hour. And so the question is, do we need as many as we have today, or might we only need, half as many of them, or 70% as many? So in some sectors, I think that's going to be true. In other sectors, not so much, because as you point out, as these individuals become more productive, they're able to deliver these services at lower prices. And as prices are lower, people are going to demand more of that good. So for example, that could happen, say, in software. As programmers are able to program a lot more in an hour of work, it's going to be cheaper to develop software systems, and then more people are going to want to use software for whatever purpose, whatever capability they're looking to do.
I mean, look, there are two minds of this, right? Because on the one hand, there's productivity, but you take out the thinking for so many people. And, if you've never had to think about it in the first place, you don't know what you're necessarily missing. But for, old school people like myself, you're thinking that it may make it easier, but does it in the long run? And I wonder, and even Geoffrey Hinton commented about this, that AI will eventually, or could very well, become smarter than humans.
It could become smarter than humans, that's for sure. I think it is going to change what we do. right? So part of what we're doing right now, AI will be able to do it better than us. And that's true for you, it's true for me, and for most people. And so we're going to focus on the things that AI is not so good at doing. So, an example, an analogy would be with the calculator. Before we had the calculator, we were all very good at doing arithmetic, at doing multiplications and divisions and additions and whatever else. Once we had the calculator, we stopped doing those things. We became less good at doing those things, and we focused more on doing other kinds of math using the calculator as a tool. And so I think it's going to be the same with AI. We're all going to have to figure out what are the things that we should no longer be doing, and therefore, what are the things that we should focus on more?
And Professor, you recently published a paper in which you discussed, and I think you touched on some of this, but building an AI nation. Can you elaborate on that?
Absolutely. So many people think of AI as an industry where Canada is going to win if we can build some AI champions in that industry. And I really think that's the wrong way to think about it. AI is a tool. It's a general purpose technology. And it's a tool that has the potential to empower every single Canadian and every single small and medium business across this country. And so when you look at it that way, the question becomes, how do we achieve that? How do we empower every Canadian to be able to use this tool to, be a super version of themselves? And the first piece in doing that is we have to educate every Canadian. We have to make sure that every Canadian knows what the technology can do, what it can't do, how they can use it, what are some of the risks, how to mitigate the risks, et cetera. And unfortunately, that's something that I'm not seeing right now. Is we're investing in the industry, we're not investing in regular Canadians.
Interesting stuff. I mean, you seem to have a lot of trust in the average person right now, perhaps more than a lot of other people when it comes to AI, because obviously if it's a power for good, no problem, but there's so many, unfortunately, nefarious things that can come with it.
Absolutely. I worry about many of those things as well. And, everything from hallucinations where it makes things up to bias and discrimination. We can worry about the alignment problem, right? So when these machines become more and more independent, are they going to do and make the decisions, and do they embody the values that we want them to embody? We can worry about how it might impact democracy itself. So it's a tool that can create content to mislead people that are just blatant lies. It's a surveillance tool. It could be used for surveillance. I worry that maybe if it's controlled by a small group of individuals, that could also undermine democracy because they would hold all the power. So we are going to have to be careful as a society. It has tremendous potential, and we certainly can't put it back in the box. That's not an option. But as we move forward, we're going to have to make sure that we're also trying to mitigate the risks and trying to do it in the most secure and the most safe way possible.
Look, it is a fascinating discussion, a fascinating topic, and I know this is just the beginning, and Time Magazine certainly is honoring that and recognizing that. Professor Blit, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Antony. Great to talk to you.
That is Joel Blit, economics professor at the University of Waterloo, the co-founder and director of the Canadian AI Adoption Initiative. Thank you again, sir.
Thank you.